Hello, my name is Danielle Clark, and I am the Queen and President of the Arthurian Order of Avalon. The mission of the Arthurian Order of Avalon is to educate its membership and audiences in Arthurian ideals, history, and culture in order to instill, preserve, and promote the concepts of chivalry, courtesy, and honor. And today I'd like to speak with you about those ideas as well as the other ideas that make up the tenets of our organization. The first of which is hope. Hope is the feeling that what is wanted can be achieved, or that events will turn out for the best. Being hopeful is the first stepping stone toward wanting to do and be a better person and do good things. The next tenet is faith. And in this regard, we're not speaking about religion, but the concept of faith itself, a confidence or trust in a person or thing, an obligation of loyalty or fidelity to a person, to a vow, or to a commitment. To be faithful is to live up to your commitments and your vows. To have faith is to trust that someone else will be faithful. Purity is also more abstract as a concept. We're not speaking specifically of lacking imperfections, which is part of purity. But in this case, we're speaking of freedom from guilt, innocence, knowing that you've done the right thing or the best thing that you could at a given moment. A purity of intention. Honor, something many people are familiar with, is honesty, fairness, and integrities in one's belief and actions. The ability to align your actions with your beliefs. Courtesy, which most people have a good concept of, is excellence of manners or social conduct. Polite behavior. It can include opening doors for other people, but it's not just that. Courtesy also includes the ability to share your opinions in a respectful manner and still be able to disagree and stand up for the beliefs that you hold. And finally, the last of our 6 tenets, which I'm going to go a little more in depth in because there's quite a bit to it, is chivalry. Historically, chivalry is the rules and customs of medieval knighthood. It's the sum idea of qualifications of a knight. It includes things like courtesy and honor, but also generosity, valor, and dexterity in arms. So medievally, it was a code of conduct specifically for combat, and also the romantic idea of how a knight behaved while at court. In a modern sense, it's a synergy of desirable qualities. Those things include loyalty, courtesy, honor, justice, the ability to defend those who cannot defend themselves, truth, honesty, humility, to not be proud, to do what you're capable of to help others. Valor, not necessarily a lack of fear, but the courage to stand up, even if it's not in your own self-interest, for what you believe is right. The last 3 things are things that are maybe less familiar to the modern sensibility. Noblesse, largesse, and prowess, which you may have heard of. Prowess being the discipline to cultivate a set of skills and to avoid self-destructive behaviors. The ability to make good choices in improving yourself, which leads to noblesse, the diligent use of prowess, those skills that have been cultivated, making use of them to aid others, which also leads to largesse, being generous with consideration. It's the ability to say, I have to take care of myself and fill my own cup so that I can continue to pour and fill others' cups. The ability to take care of the people around you because you've taken care of yourself and cultivated those skills in yourself. So chivalry is a wide range of other attributes synergized into one concept, which is why it can be more difficult to understand, but which makes it that much more important. That concludes what I have today about values. However, if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can do so through our website, thearthurianorderofavalon.com. Thank you.
So, you've been watching the medieval fair on a computer. While the start of computer science is older than computers we know it, the term itself is from the 20th century, so why am I talking about it? Algorithms, or methods of problem solving, are important enough to computer science that some early computer scientists thought the name of the field should actually be algorithmics. This comes from the 9th century, and the mathematician known as Al-Khwarizmi, Latinized as algorithmy. Why? Al-Khwarizmi was an astronomer in the Baghdad House of Wisdom, and in the 9th century wrote a treatise on mathematics that was intended for popular use, like the general public. This was the compendious book on calculation by completion and balancing. Yeah. In it are ways to solve quadratic equations that kind of look like this. But it didn't use the terms and symbols that we know and tolerate. Everything was referred to stuff that's looks more like this. So something like this equation would be the moiety of the square plus 5 of the root is 28 numbers. Moiety being a term for half, which I will now use whenever I want to be fancy. And so how you would solve it is first you would double it, make that easy, and then take the moiety of the root and do a lot more verbally, or I'll show you the picture of it. You take the square, half the roots, and then there's some extra, which is 25. Or if you're feeling fancy, again, you can make a bigger, well, actually the same size thing, just with more rectangles. And in either case, this is a very convenient example, and the root ends up being 4. In the treatise, the equations are divided up into 6 different forms based on where the square, root, and numbers are, and if some of them were even there. And there's also more examples. Calculation of pi, though that's not what we're super impressed by, because other people did that too. Foil before foil was cool. An example of where you'll use it in real life being the marketplace. And if I sound like an algebra teacher at this point, well, that's where we get the term. The calculation by completion and balancing, that's algebra. So, the next time you're watching something cool on the internet, bending your computer to your will, or just getting a good deal at the grocery store, you can thank many people, but this medieval mathematician in particular. Thanks for watching.
Sir Lanval was a knight. In shining armor, you wonder? Not so much. He did have an armor, but it was quite old and rusty. It was a hand-me-down that didn't fit very well. And he did have a horse, but she was rather old and tired. Sir Lanval was a son of a king, but that king had many other children. So as soon as Lanval was old enough, he was given a rather small purse of coins, and then he was sent away to serve as a knight at another king's court. Now, that other king happened to be none other than King Arthur. Ooh, King Arthur, you think, fancy. The thing with King Arthur was that, well, he had his favorite knights, the ones that sat with him at the round table, and those he lavished with gifts of gold and lands. But then he had a lot of other knights that he didn't really care about. And Lanval was one of those. In fact, Lanval had a feeling that King Arthur didn't really like him. Or maybe he just never noticed him. In any case, he was given no gold, no lands, and pretty soon those few coins he had brought ran out. So there he was, pretty miserable, lonely, homesick, broke. So one day Sir Lanval decided to take a ride in the woods, just to get away from it all. So he rode out, and it was a beautiful morning. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and he rode through the woods that soon gave way to a lovely meadow, crossed by a bubbling silver creek. "Come on, old girl," he said, "let's gallop." And so they set out across that meadow. But when they arrived at that creek, the horse stopped so suddenly that poor Lanval almost fell off. "What's the matter, old girl? Come on, it's just a little water. Jump over it." But she would not budge. She was trembling. She was scared. She refused to cross that water. "All right," said Lanval, "let's take a break." So he let his horse loose to graze the nice green grass. Then he took his mantle and folded it into a nice pillow, found a lovely place on a small hill under a tree, and lay down to take a nap. He opened his eyes and breathed. Down by the bubbling silver stream, he saw two maidens fair. Oh, listen to this song of dreams and wonders. Say, do you want to know Their song was so sweet that the birds in the woods felt quiet to listen and hear. The water in the stream stopped its course. Fish leapt up in the air. Oh, listen to this song of dreams and wonders. Say, do you want to know her? They sat down beside her on the green grass, whispered in his ear.
and I am the mistress of the Dance Guild for the Arthurian Order of Avalon, and today I'm going to show you some etiquette that we observe while we dance. First thing we have to do is ask a partner to the dance floor. So how we would do that is with a reverence, which would just mean a bow or a curtsy as a polite gesture and invitation to a dance. So I'm going to switch into some pants so you can see what those movements look like. So now that I have my bowing pants on, so that you can see what my legs are doing, when you want to ask someone for a dance, you will need to reverence. Typically, the person who is asking for a dance might bow. So you would choose a leg to step back on, plant your weight, and you're going to bend that knee. And you can choose to keep that a small bend, or you can go for a much deeper bend, up to your comfort level. And the arms should be out in some way. Again, you're inviting this person for a dance, so you want to look inviting and like you might know what you're doing out on the dance floor. And also, you need to have a hand out for them to accept your invitation. 2 notes about politeness and etiquette here. So we've reverenced, asked for hand for dance, keeping that toe on the ground. No one wants to see what's on the bottom of your shoe. That's very rude in this time period. And rude in this time period still is maintaining eye contact. So when you ask for someone to dance, you want to maintain eye contact with that person. You don't want to look off and ignore them or look somewhere else. You don't want to drop your gaze. That also pulls your posture down. So multiple reasons to keep eyes on the face until they accept, and then you can escort them on to the dance floor. But the person who is accepting that dance might instead choose to curtsy. And how you would curtsy, which I will also show this in a dress so that you can see why I'm doing this movement that I'm about to do. First, I'm going to do what's called a rond de jambe in ballet. And I'm going to take one foot forward, around to the side, and then back behind me in one big round motion. It's rond de jambe. And then I'm going to bend both knees, or plie. Keeping my back straight. Again, posture is important. And again, doing something pretty with the arms. And then you would accept an invitation to dance. And off you go. It is nice to get big skirts out of the way. And there are much bigger than this even. So doing that rond de jambe gathers up the skirts and keeps them out from underneath your feet so that you can curtsy and then step without worrying about accidentally stepping on the inside of your skirt. Because that is a possibility if you just step back that you'll get the tail of your skirt, especially if you've got a long skirt. But by sweeping it out of the way, typically your foot will be free to touch the ground for that curtsy. And now that we know how to ask someone to dance, we need someone to dance with. So I need a dance partner. Oh, dance partner! A dance partner has appeared, and first I must ask her to dance. So I will bow and ask her hand to take her onto the dance floor. But do note, hand placement is important. You do not want to grasp palm to palm, because that's improper. It would only be really acceptable for family and specifically a husband and wife type of relationship. Otherwise, it's considered lewd. Now that we have a partner who has accepted a dance, we have to figure out how to line up. In a formal dance, there's often a head of the dance, and that will be the nearest to the high table in the feast hall, and whoever the highest ranking person there is will go there. For our purposes, the High King and Queen of Britain are King Arthur and Queen Guinevere, so they would be at the very head of any given dance that they participate in. Following them would be other kings and queens of the land, followed by princes and princesses, other nobility, some clergy, and then we would get into the lords and ladies, landowners, merchant class, and then on into the entertainers, and even lower. Once we have finished dancing, we need to escort our partner back to where we found them before the dance. So we will bow or curtsy to them, escort them off of the dance floor, and reverence once more, and thank them for the wonderful dance. To recap, we discussed how to approach and ask someone for a dance, how to escort them onto the floor, handholds, and things like keeping the toe down during a bow and not touching palms whenever dancing. I hope you have enjoyed this video and have learned a little bit about dance etiquette, and I hope we get to dance again sometime soon.
This video is a brief outline of the Romance of Silence. This is one of the more obscure Arthurian stories because its manuscript, though recorded in the 13th century, was not discovered until the 20th century. In this story, the King of England is a fictional person called King Evan, and he has more power in the story than the king would have at that time, as he has outlawed the inheritance and succession of property by women. So when two Cornish aristocrats have a daughter, they choose to raise her as a boy so that she can inherit Cornwall, and they give her the gender-neutral name of Silence. Silence grows up to be very successful at the knightly pursuits of fighting and hunting, which were considered masculine, and music, which is shared between genders. The story even shifts between male and female pronouns for Silence depending on which gender role is being performed. When Silence has doubts about his gender identity, nature, nurture, and reason appear as characters to argue their viewpoints. The character of nature is unhappy because she gave Silence beauty and potential that she feels would be wasted on a man, while the character of nurture says that education and environment have made Silence into a man. Neither really wins out, but Silence agrees with the third character, reason, and says, I don't want to lose my high position, I don't want to exchange it for a lesser one, and I don't want to prove my father a liar. Silence has adventures as a knight, a minstrel, and a royal retainer to the same king who removed women's right to inherit. It's only when Silence is tasked with capturing Merlin, which he doesn't know only a woman can do, is the ruse discovered. Merlin says, I don't know any man, however strong, who could have conquered him in combat, while King Evan rewards Silence's loyalty by revoking his earlier law regarding succession. But she now has to live as a woman, and it's not clear whether she is satisfied with this outcome, as she no longer speaks in the story after this. What I think is clear is that gender roles, identity, and ambiguity are not modern concepts, and this story is an example of the many ways they have been explored over the centuries.
Good day, Your Majesties, and those of you watching, to the first virtual University of Oklahoma Medieval Fair. I am Dennis, the Lord Falconer. This is my wife, Mary. She and I co-own Raptors Keep, a federally licensed and permitted conservation education program. This is Andrea. She'll be assisting Mary today. I'm going to let them go ahead and start working with the birds and getting them ready to fly. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what we do. Raptors Keep is a conservation education program. We are federally licensed. Our birds are individually permitted to us. We are given these birds by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We don't actually own these birds. We're caretakers for these birds. Now, we take these birds out, or we do them virtual this year, on display. The reason for that is they want us to get these birds out so the public can see them, so we can tell you a little bit about them, talk to you about the dangers of lead, the dangers of rat poison, the dangers that society presents to them. Another reason that we bring these birds out is so that you can get a finer appreciation of these birds. Having that appreciation, seeing these birds up close, you see them in the wild, you see them fly, you may see them on their migratory paths, but when you can see them up close, you can find out how majestic they really are. You can also see how dangerous they are when we talk about their talons and we talk about their beaks. And the reason we want you to understand this is we don't want you going out into the wild, finding one of these birds and taking it home. First of all, it can do a lot of damage in a very short amount of time. Second of all, it is illegal under the Migratory Bird Act, but a lot of people wouldn't know that unless they saw our program.
Now I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about the Migratory Bird Act of 1918. Now this is actually what came into effect and why it actually became illegal to possess a bird or even a feather of a bird that is migratory here in the United States. Now, in 1918, it was very popular to have bird feathers in women's hats, and because of this trend, because it was so popular, it actually drove several bird species into extinction. And so the Migratory Bird Act was created in order to protect those birds and prevent any more bird extinctions here in North America. Now, this does cover everything from Canadian geese all the way up to birds of prey. Now, you can have the feathers and the birds with the proper permitting, and we'll be talking about that permitting later.
I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about the sport of falconry. The sport of falconry is known to be between 4,000 and 5,000 years old and is our oldest sport. Before we had knives or guns or bows and arrows for sport, we had falconry to ensure we had meat on the table every day. During the reign of King Henry and Queen Elizabeth, falconry was in its golden age. Everyone from their majesties all the way down to common folk like you and I practiced the sport of falconry. In fact, each class was assigned its own bird. Falconry is defined as the taking of wild game with a trained bird of prey. Now Mary's going to come out and explain to you how falconry has changed from those early days to today.
Now today, instead of having a class system like what we had during the reign of King Henry and Queen Elizabeth, instead what we have are actually 3 different classifications of falconers. You have your first level, which is your apprentice, you have your second level, which is a general, and then you have your final level, which is actually a master class falconer. Now, while we don't have specific birds for specific classes, there are specific birds that you are only allowed to have within certain classifications of your falconry licenses. As an apprentice, as a first-year apprentice, within the first 6 months, you are only allowed to have 2 different types of birds. You are either allowed to have an American kestrel, which is North America's smallest falcon, or you are allowed to have a red-tailed hawk like Hale. Now, with that being said, after 6 months, you can apply to have a Harris's hawk, just like little Hermes here, which is in fact my personal falconry bird. And during all of this, when you're trying to get your permitting, in order to become an apprentice falconer, you do have to start by finding yourself a sponsor, such as my husband Dennis. He is my sponsor. He is the one that is teaching me all of the ins and outs of falconry. And in addition to that, you also have to pass a test that is over 100 questions long. It's a It is a very long process, but it is well worth the reward because you are able to then work with gorgeous animals such as Hermes and such as the other birds that you have seen with us here. And In order to do this, you do have to apply to state authorities such as the Oklahoma Fish and Wildlife Department in order to gain access to these permits. Once you have passed your test and you do have a sponsor, then at that point you also have to then gather all of your equipment together, and which is something that you'll see on all of our birds here. You'll notice that they do have pieces of leather wrapped around their legs. These are their jesses. Yes, I know, you're excited to fly, and we'll get to that in a moment. And then from there, we actually have something called jesses, which is what keeps the bird from flying off, like you just saw. Hermes is very excited to fly today, and we'll get to that here shortly. And from there, we then use something called a swivel, which helps the bird to be able to move freely within their restraints and not get themselves tangled up. Now, we also have one more piece of very important equipment called a crayons, which is really a fancy name for having a string tied to a weighted end, and then on the end it does have a hook, and this prevents the bird from flying off during training, and it helps us keep control of the bird. Now, Hermes is very, very excited to fly, so we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Alrighty. Yeah, I know. Oh, yes. Oh, so excited. Now, I know that this looks super cute and super fun, but these guys are actually quite dangerous. Oh, did I drop a piece? Well, that's okay. You'll notice that he is very, very excited to fly, and in fact, I dropped a piece of food, and he was on that immediately. And that is actually something called a jump up. We utilize that particular exercise in order to help build their breast muscles, which lends to stronger flying and easier pursuit of their prey, which for someone as small as Hermes, we're looking at something like a cottontail. And we are super excited to fly. Now, this is something that we encourage in our hawks and in our falconry birds, because it means that when we're out in the field, if something were to happen, sweetheart, we have to let go. No, come on, let go. No, let go. And no, Hermes, thank you. You have to let go before we move on. Now, when we're out in the field, we want to encourage a very close following response so that if there were an emergency were to happen, we would be able to recover the bird quickly. So I am very, very pleased with Hermes here. And then there is one more piece of equipment that we use often during our lure training, and we use this in order to make sure that they know exactly when the end of the hunt is and when it's time to go home. Sweetheart, you have to stay over there first. Yeah, we have to stay over here. I know you're very excited. And that piece of equipment is something called a lure. Now, a lure is really nothing more than just a piece of leather or similar materials which has a loop on the end closer to where it is actually attached to a string, which you see me holding here. Thank you for your enthusiasm, but I'm not quite ready yet. Thank you. And what we do with this lure is that we will load a piece of food onto it, and when we are ready to end the hunt, what we will do is we will take and we will toss this particular piece of leather out with this nice big chunk of food on it, so that they know that it's time to go home, and that they know, irregardless of how the day went, they will get a nice big reward at the end of it. So let's see if Hermes will actually go ahead and do this for us today. Hermes, up. And from there, we make sure that he knows that he is going to be able to have that piece of food. He's just found it there. And we like to make sure that it's tied on real nice and tight. That way, you know, if there is an emergency, we do have time to be able to make into them. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead and go down here with him and offer him that nice big piece of food and see if he'll kind of come up here with me. Come on, buddy. Now, you'll notice that I kind of knelt over the lure. The lure does imitate a prey item in its movement and how we use it. So we want to make sure that they can't see it, because if they do see us taking the lure away from them, they interpret that as us having taken away food from them, which is disastrous. It causes them to lose their actual desire to work with us, because they think then that we are actually food stealers. Now, one more time, I know I mentioned a little bit about the permitting. Now with this, there is actually some pretty hefty fines if you do end up in possession of a bird of prey or even a feather of a bird of prey without the appropriate licensing. Something like a rehabilitation facility, an educational group like what we are right here at Raptors Keep, or even a falconry permit, which is what I was just talking about here just a few minutes ago. If you do not have these permits, you can actually be charged with a federal crime and have up to 6 months in prison and an upwards of a $10,000 fine. So if you do end up seeing a bird of prey or even a feather from a migratory bird, a bird that will move from place to place throughout the year, that is actually punishable by law. So we want to encourage you guys to contact your appropriate authorities like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife or your local rehabilitation center, and have the trained and licensed professionals come and take care of whatever you might be seeing out there. So we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to Hermes here, and thank you guys very much.
Now I'd like to talk to you about the difference between hawks and owls. Hawks have something called a crop. So hawks, eagles, and falcons will all intake their food. The food will go into the crop and take up to 24 hours to digest. Then they know they're full. Owls, on the other hand, don't have a crop. Without that crop, the food goes straight to their stomach. So you can be having a perfect training day, and that owl decides everything's over. Another difference between hawks and owls are their hunting styles. Hawks, falcons, and eagles all hunt their prey in pursuit mode. Owls, on the other hand, are true assassins. They wait in a tree for their prey to come underneath, pounce and attack. Now, I can go on and on and on with useless facts, but I assume you'd probably like to see some birds fly, so let's get to it. The first bird we're going to bring out today is Hale. Hale is a Crider's hawk. The Crider's hawk is a subspecies of the red tail and can be denoted by his lighter, more salmon-colored tail as opposed to the brick red tail of the red tail. Hale came to us from a rehab facility in Florida. They thought he had a scratch on his eye, so he couldn't be released, but he could work in our program. We took him to the vet and found out that he actually had a roundworm in his eye. We tried several different medications, all to no avail. We discussed surgery to remove the eye, but the chances of removing the eye with a secondary infection or something bad happening under anesthesia were too great, and he's able to perform, as you're going to see. He's able to fly, he's able to have full quality of life, and will live probably to the ripe old age of 29. Now let's see how Hale will work for us. This is Hale, the Crider's hawk I spoke to you about earlier, and I need to tell you about the most important tool in training. The French call this a crayons. I call it a string. We'll hook this on so we make sure during the training flights he doesn't decide to go after that woodpecker that we're hearing in the tree. All right, Mr. Hale, what do you think? You think you can do this for us today, or are you going to make me just kind of hang out here for 5 minutes and not do anything at all? Come on. Come on. Turn around. Turn around. There you go. There you go, buddy. All right, here we go. You know what that is? Come on. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. You find it? It's right there. There you go. There you go. Good boy. Let's try that again. The issue with Mr. Hale only having the one eye is that he can't really see out in the stereo vision that they have. So he's basically seeing flat. So the further out we try to get him, the more he's going to have to curve with that one eye to be able to see where he's going. Come on, buddy. Come on. Here you go. Here you go. Come on. Come on, buddy. Right here. There we go. Good boy. Good boy. Step up. All right, let's try one more with Mr. Hale. See if we can get a little distance here. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Good boy. All right, do you think we can get one more? Oh, it's right there, baby. It's on your talon. It's on your foot, right here. There you go. Let's try one more with Mr. Hale. Step up, bud. Step up. There you go. And there we go. All right, let's go for a little more distance. Hey, bud. Hey, right here. Come on. Come on. You'll see me drop my glove. The reason for dropping the glove is you want to break and regain their attention. Come on. Hale, right here. Right here, bud. Come on. Come on. You don't want to stress the bird. So if we move in a little bit, the downside of that is you can teach him that he's going to teach you to get closer. But we also don't want to stress him. There we go. Good boy. Good boy. All right. Since that's apparently all he wants to do, that's what we'll do with it. Let's try one more. I got one more piece of food. We'll see if he'll do this or not. Okay. Come on. Ready? Hale. Hale. Hale, come on. Come on, Hale. There you go. Yeah. He's had a little bit more than... It's right there. Not really too hungry today. They are very food motivated, especially like this. Weight management, as we've talked about, is extremely critical. You can miss by 5 grams on these guys, and if they're 5 grams heavy, they won't fly at all. If they're 5 grams light, they'll be all over you. So on a bird that weighs roughly 900 grams, that 5 gram swing makes all the difference. You ready? You sure? Okay. You want to go up and show the camera your tail one last time? Again, with the Crider's hawk, you see how white he is under here. You see the white on the head. And you see that, oh, stop. You see that salmon-colored tail, if he'll let you see it. Much lighter than a red tail that you'd see that's brick red in the wild. Thanks. Now we'd like to bring out Gracie. Gracie is a Harris's hawk. They are native to the southwestern U.S. and down into Mexico. Gracie came to us from a hunter that was having issues with her hunting. We've subsequently had issues with her gaining and losing weight rapidly, so weight management is an issue. Harris's hawks are unique among all birds of prey in that they hunt socially. They'll actually stack themselves on top of a cactus to gain height so they can see their prey. But in addition to that, the larger females will stack on the bottom with the smaller males at the top. The males will identify the prey, fly out, turn the prey back, and the larger females will go down and take the prey, and they'll all share accordingly.
And here we have Gracie, who is very excited to fly with us today. So let's see if we can't get her started. Woo, goodness. Gracie. Up. Up. Oh, we got a little bit hung up here, but that's okay. Oh, baby. That works better if you let go first. You want to try that again? Gracie, hop. Good girl. And that is our darling Gracie, our female Harris's hawk, who weighs in at an average of about 900 grams. You want to do one more, baby? Let's do one more. All right, here we go. Hop. Good girl. There we go, our wonderful Gracie. And here we will be bringing out shortly one of our male Harris's hawks, whose name is Hermes. No, we're done flying. Thank you, you did really well.
I wanted to show you the difference in size. They call it sexual dimorphism. Females are up to a third bigger than the males. You can see the differences here. Now, I'll get him to turn around. She'll get Gracie to turn around just a little bit. Turn around the other way.
This way?
Now, one sure way you can tell the difference between a female and a male hawk is a female's got a big mouth and big feet. I'm not going to say that applies anywhere else, but it does apply in the What are you looking at me like that for? It's true. It does apply in the raptor world. Now we're going to bring out Smoke. Smoke is also a Harris's hawk from the desert Southwest. One of the first things you're going to notice about Smoke versus Gracie is how much smaller he is. And that's because of sexual dimorphism in all raptors, which means the females are larger than the males. Smoke came to us from an abatement program. Now, an abatement program is where they fly the birds to scare other birds away. They use them at airports, they use them at oil fields, they use them in California in the vineyards to keep the birds from coming down and getting at the grapes. Now, they're not there to kill, they're just there to run those off. Well, Smoke decided that they tasted really yummy. He was trying to move starlings away. In fact, they were so yummy, he got one, went up in a tree, and it was a few days before they could get him back out of the tree because he ate the whole thing and was so fat he didn't want to go anywhere. They called and asked us if they could place him with us because after being an abatement bird and being raised by a human, he was imprinted on humans. Now, they still have their instincts to hunt in the wild, as was proven by him taking the starling. But they are opportunists, so if they were to see a human, most likely they'd come down to the human to try and get food. For us, doing what we do, that's not that big a deal. For the average person to see 8 razor-sharp talons coming at their face at about 30 miles an hour is not really a comforting feeling. Now, I mentioned imprinting. Imprinting is where they are raised from a small chick by humans with human contact. What that does is while they still know how to hunt, it actually imprints them much like a puppy when it first opens its eyes, much like humans. We're all imprints because we were imprinted onto the first thing that we saw when we opened our eyes. The first thing they see in the nest or with the human, that's what they bond to. This is Smoke. Smoke is a Harris's hawk. They come to us from the desert Southwest, out in Arizona, New Mexico, in that area, on down into Old Mexico, as far down as Peru. They're a social hunting bird. They're actually the only raptor that is social. They stay as a family unit. But right now what we want to do is see if we can demonstrate for you how that works. I'm going to ask Mary and Andrea to come out. We're going to see if this will work with Mr. Hale. What we call this is a brush pile. This simulates where game would run under and how he would go to flush that game out. So if you guys will come out. Right about there, kneel down next to her. And yes, I know we're not social distancing, but we have all been tested, and some of us have had our shots. I've even had the rabies shot, so we should be good to go. Okay, get the gear off of him. Oh, he knows. He knows what it's time for. Hey, you have to get your leash off and get you hooked up, buddy. Let me have it. This is probably the most important piece of equipment in training. The French call this a crayons. It's a string. We hook this on to make sure that during training they don't decide to go somewhere other than we want them. Especially at the end of training where they've eaten, they're really not going to be doing a lot of good food response. So we want to make sure that we've got them a way that we've got them to come back to us. Now, like I said, these guys, a brush pile, smoke. Come on, buddy. Hey, smoke. Food. Smoke. Come on. Come on, buddy. Like working with a 3-year-old for his entire life. Smoke. Hey. All right, we're going to try something first, see if we can get his attention. Hey, come on. Come on. There we go. Now he knows what's going on. Go back over there. Come on. Now he knows the game. It's just up to him to decide if he wants to play or not. Here you go, buddy. Smoke. Turn around. There we go. Good boy. Good boy. It's right there between your feet. There you go. There you go. Okay. Smoke did a good job. Did a really good job. That's actually his first time to actually perform this in this year. He came to us from an abatement program. Always want to end on a high note with him. Come on. We'll see. He'll be here in a minute. He always does. See? I'll go ahead and get hold of him. Anyway, he's going to stay with us. He's probably about 2 to 3 years old. So he'll stay with us the rest of his life, 19, 20, 25 years, however long it takes. He gets flown daily. He gets hand time, glove time like this daily. They get their West Nile shot once a year. They go to the vet twice a year for health checks, or more often, depending on if we think there's something as an issue. They get medications when they need them. We have quality food that we source and we know where it comes from. So he's going to live out the rest of his life in luxury, other than having to perform and let you guys see him. Thanks. We hope that you have enjoyed the show today. I would like to leave you with a few things. First, if you would, please stop using lead shot and lead fishing equipment and switch to steel. It only takes a slice of lead the size of your clipping of your little finger to kill bald eagles and any other scavenger or bird of prey that were to come down onto those things shot and left in the field. Second, I would ask that you not use poisons. Poisons are blood thinners, and with blood thinners, a mouse or a rat can eat that and get outside the house. That can be eaten by a cat. That cat may be taken by a coyote. The coyote ends up dead. A vulture comes down and eats that carcass, and now we've impacted that entire food chain. The third thing I'd ask is that you not use sticky traps outside. Sticky traps can take songbirds, they can take small owls, and they can't get away from that. So we would ask that if you use sticky traps, be judicious in them and keep those inside. Lastly, we are a federally permitted organization, as we said earlier, but in our federal regs they tell us that we cannot make a profit and cannot use this business for anything but the care and feeding of these animals. So we would ask, if you've enjoyed this show and you've enjoyed these animals, that you donate to one of the links below. And lastly, please follow our Facebook page at Raptors Keep. We'll provide you more information as you would like to request it. We have one world. It's our responsibility to take care of that world. The 3 things we can do better than anything would be to reduce, reuse, and recycle. Thank you very much. We're Raptors Keep. One last thing. If you find a raptor on the ground, please, whatever you do, leave it there. Call your local Fish and Game or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They'll direct you to someone who can help. Thank you.
Greetings all and welcome to the virtual medieval fair. We are Amini and we are here to perform for you for the next half hour or so. That song that you've just heard is a traditional Irish lullaby known as Amini, and it is in fact the song from which we get our name. We are Amini, as I mentioned before. My name is Fergus na Maelach, my lovely companion is Winifred the Minstrel, and the name Amini means little birds. The song is all about telling the little birds it's time to go to sleep, the night is come, no more singing, go rest. We are very fond of little birds. We have a bird, apparently. What is that?
This is Goldie the Goldfinch. She's gonna join us today.
Oh, we have a new band member. You named her Goldie.
Yes, Goldie the Goldfinch.
Apparently some of us are more fond of little birds than others. We often have a theme running throughout our shows where we insert a bunch of songs that have birds in them or have something to do with birds or are about birds. But this set is going to be our all birds set. We're going to sing all songs that have something to do with birds. Our first one obviously was about birds. Our next one is going to be
The
Nightingale. I knew that. A lovely little Irish love song.
As I was walking one morning in May, I spied a young couple who fondly did stray. And one was a young maid, so sweet and so fair, and the other one was a soldier and a brave grenadier. And they kissed so sweet and comforting as they clung to each other. They went arm in arm along the road like a sister and brother. They went arm in arm along the road till they came to a stream. And they both sat down together for to hear the nightingale sing. And out of his knapsack he took a fine fiddle, and he played her such a merry tune as you ever did hear. And he played her such a merry tune as the valley did ring. And they both sat down together for to hear the nightingale sing. And they kissed so sweet and comforting as they clung to each other. They went arm in arm along the road like a sister and brother. They went arm in arm along the road till they came to a stream. And they both sat down together for to hear the nightingale sing. And they both sat down together for to hear the nightingale sing.
Huzzah! Let us move on to our second bird song. You have another one?
Yes, this is Blackie the Blackbird, which is also the name of our next song, The Blackbird.
Goldie and Blackie.
Yep.
I'm sensing a pattern here. Blackbird, another lovely song, but this one is quite sad.
If I were a blackbird, I'd whistle and sing. I'd follow the vessel in my true love sails in. And in the top rigging, I'd there build my nest. I'd flutter my wings on his lily white breast. a brave sailor lad who courted me strongly both night and by day. But now my dear sailor is gone far away. He promised to take me to Donnybrook Fair, to buy me red ribbons to tie up my hair. And when he returns from the ocean so wide, he'll take me and make me his own blushing bride. My parents, they chide me, and they will not agree that I and my sailor married should be. But when he returns, I will greet him with joy. I'll take to my bosom my dear sailor boy. If I were a blackbird, I'd whistle and sing. I'd follow the vessel that my true love sails in, and in the top ringing, I'd there build my nest. I'd flutter my wings on his lily white breast.
Another one? How many of those do you have?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3. 3 so far.
So far, there's more.
I think so.
Oh dear.
There might be. This is Lucy the Lark, and our next song is called Lark in the Morning.
Lucy the... Indeed, Lark in the Morning.
The lark in the morning, she rises off the nest and goes off in the air with the dew all on her breast. I like the jolly ploughboy, she whistles and she sings. She comes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings. Roger the ploughboy, he is a dashing day. He goes whistling and singing in yonder leafy shade. He met with Duck and Susan, she's handsome I declare, and she's far more enticing than the birds all in the air. The lark in the morning, she rises off the nest and goes off in the air with the dew all on her breast. And like the jolly ploughboy, she whistles and she sings. She comes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings. As they were coming home from the rakes of the town, the meadow being mowed and the grass had been cut down. As they should chance to tumble upon the new morning, oh, it's kiss me now or never, this bonny lass did say. The lark in the morning, she rises up the nest and goes off in the air with the dew all on her breast. And like the jolly ploughboy, she whistles and she sings. She comes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings. Is a health to you, ploughboys, wherever you may be, that like to have a bonny lass sitting on your knee. With a pint of good strong porter, you whistle and you sing, and the ploughboy is as happy as a prince or a king. The lark in the morning, she rises off the nest and goes off in the air with the dew all on her breast. And like the jolly ploughboy, she whistles and she sings. She comes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings. That was fun.
Huzzah! And of course, there's another one. And what is that?
This is a purple martin, but he's looking a little blue today, so put him here. This is Marty the martin.
Are we singing a song with a martin in it?
No, we don't have a song with a martin, but we do have a song with an oriole.
A song with an oriole. Indeed. In fact, let's do 2 songs together.
We can do that?
We can. We can do whatever we want. It's our show. We're going to sing a song called The Oriole, and we'll start off singing it as a round, and then we'll add in another song called Spring Is Come as a sister song.
Put them together. Curtains.
Out to the country let us stroll and see the lovely oriole. When we can hear his gleeful strain, then summer's come again. So we sing, so we sing his song through the meadow rings.
Out to the country,
Out to the country, let us stroll and see the lovely oriole. When we can hear his gleeful strain, then summer's come again. So he sings, so we sing his song through the meadow rings. Out to the country, let us stroll to see the lovely oriole. When we can hear his gleeful strain, then summer's come again. So he sings, so he sings his song through the meadow rings. Huzzah. Ooh, that was almost bad. Oh goodness, what is that?
This is a loon.
A loon, you say?
Luna the loon.
Luna, you didn't name her Claire?
No, this is Luna. Although Claire the loon might be a good name too.
She sounds very spooky.
Very, yes. So we don't have a loon in this next song, but we do have a sparrow. It's called Come All Ye Fair and Tender Ladies, but we did something different with the tune.
Indeed, we decided that we were going to take the lyrics from Come All Ye Fair and Tender Ladies and set it to the melody from Poor Wayfaring Stranger. We think it works very well, and we hope that you enjoy it.
Come all ye fair and tender ladies, be careful when you court young men. They're like a star on the
very beautiful.
Yes, it's lovely. I like that arrangement. Very nice.
What shall we sing next? Oh my goodness, she's got two of them now. Are those owls?
Yes, this is Frankie and Fred, the owls. I like how they go, ooh.
Indeed they do. Are we singing a song about owls next?
Afraid not, but we are going to sing a song about a parrot.
A song about a parrot. Wait, I know a song that's got a parrot in it.
I know it's called Old Maid in the Garret, but it's really about a parrot.
Right, how foolish of me.
I have often heard it said by my father and my mother that going to a wedding is the making of a lover. If this is so, then I'll go without a pity. Kind confidence, won't you send me to a wedding and it's only on me? How will it feel if I die alone in the carriage? Now there's my sister Jean. She's not handsome or good looking, scarcely petite, and the family she was born. Now she's 24, she's a son and a daughter. Here am I at 44, and I never had an offer, and it's so dear me. How will it feel if I die alone in the garret? I can cook and I can sew, I can keep the house right tidy, rise up in the morning and get the breakfast ready. There's nothing in this world to make my heart so cheery as a wee fat man to call me his own dearie, and it's so dear me. How will it feel if I die alone in the garret? Oh, come Lansman, come Townsend, come Tinker, come Taylor, come Fiddler, come Dancer, come Bellman, or come Sailor, come Bridgeman, come Foreman, come Flute, or come Witty, come any man at all, won't you marry out of pity, and it's so dear me. How will it feel if I die alone in the garret? Now I'm way at home, 'cause there's nobody heeding for old Annie's pleading. I'm away at home in my own wee bit garret. If I can't find a man, then I'll surely get a parrot, and it's so dear me. How will it feel if I die alone in the garret, and it's so dear me. How will it feel if I die alone in the garret?
Huzzah.
So, Fergus, don't you have a story about a parrot?
Again, I have a story with a parrot in it.
Well, tell us about it.
This is a story called No Way Jose. Now, normally when we perform this story, we ask the audience to participate. We need your help because every now and then we're going to say, No Way Jose, and we need to say it as loud as possible, so we ask the audience to say it with us. When we point at you, you say, No way, Jose. So we'll do our best to be loud here, but we're hoping that you are loud enough on the other side of the camera that we can hear you over here as well. So, once upon a time, there was a rooster named Jose. Jose was a proud rooster who loved to sing. One day, Jose got a letter from his uncle Perico. Perico, by the way, is Spanish for parrot.
That's where the parrot comes in.
Indeed. Jose was very excited to receive this letter because it was an invitation. Uncle Perico was getting married. Jose was looking forward to attending this wedding because he was certain that all the people at the wedding would want to hear him sing for them. So the morning of the wedding, Jose woke up bright and early, got himself brushed up and looking his very best, and he started marching down the road towards the marriage without even stopping for breakfast. He soon realized that this was a mistake because he was very hungry. So hungry, in fact, that when he passed a bush on the side of the road from which was hanging the biggest, plumpest, juiciest, ripest, reddest raspberry he had ever seen in his life, he could not stop himself from going over and gobbling it down. He immediately realized the error that he had just committed, though, because he knew that his beak was going to be covered in bright red raspberry juice. And sure enough, when he went and looked in a puddle at his reflection, his beak was bright red. I can't go to my uncle's wedding looking like this, he thought. I've got to clean myself up. If only I had a towel or a washcloth or something to wipe this off with. And then he got an idea. He went over to the grass on the side of the road and he said, "Grass, grass, clean my feet. I'm going to the wedding of my uncle Pettico." But the grass said, "No way, Jose." Well, Jose wasn't going to let a little thing like that stop him. He knew there had to be something he could do to get the grass to do what he wanted. So he looked around a bit, and then he noticed in a field beside the road was a sheep. So he marched over to that sheep, and he said, "Sheep, sheep, eat the grass won't clean my feet, and I'm going to the wedding of my uncle Pettico." But the sheep just looked back at Jose and said, "No way, Jose." Well, Jose wasn't ready to give up yet. He looked around and he noticed slinking through the forest nearby was a wolf. Jose marched right up to that wolf and he said, "Wolf, wolf, bite the sheep won't eat the grass, and the grass won't clean my feet, and I'm going to the wedding of my uncle Pettico." But the wolf just looked back at Jose and said, "No way, Jose." Jose still wasn't ready to give up. He looked around a bit more and he noticed on the porch of the farmhouse there was a dog. So he marched over to that dog and he said, "Dog, dog, chase the wolf won't bite the sheep, and the sheep won't eat the grass, and the grass won't clean my feet, and I'm going to the wedding of my uncle Pettico." But the dog looked up at Jose and said, "No way, Jose." Jose still wasn't ready to give up. He looked over and he noticed sitting in a chair on that porch was a man. So he went over to the man and he said, "Man, man, leave the dog won't chase the wolf, and the wolf won't bite the sheep, and the sheep won't eat the grass, and the grass won't clean my feet, and I'm going to the wedding of my uncle Pettico." But that man looked down at Jose and he said, "No way, Jose." Well, Jose had come this far, he was not about to give up. So he thought, and 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 he thought. And then he thought of something. He remembered that every time the man walked past the graveyard, he would pull his coat up around his neck, he would walk a little bit faster, he would cross himself, and he would say a little prayer. Jose realized the man was afraid of the ghosts in the graveyard. Jose wasn't afraid of no ghosts. He marched into that graveyard as bold as anything, and he said, "Ghost, ghost, scare the man won't eat the dog, and the dog won't chase the wolf, and the wolf won't bite the sheep, and the sheep won't eat the grass, and the grass won't clean my feet, and I'm going to the wedding of my uncle Pettico." Well, those ghosts, they rose up out of their graves and they went, That man, his eyes got as wide as a dinner plate. He jumped up, he grabbed a stick, and he started beating that dog. And the dog went, yip, 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 yip. He ran over and he started chasing the wolf, and the wolf went, ow! The wolf ran over and he started biting the sheep, and the sheep went, meh. The sheep ran over and started eating the grass, and the grass went swish, swish, swish. and it cleaned off Jose's beak. Jose was so proud. He knew that he was ready to go to his uncle's wedding. So he marched down the road again, and he got to the church, and he went and sat down in the pews with all the other guests. And at the reception afterwards, Jose stood up and said, "My beloved Uncle Perico, all you fine people here at his wedding, would you like me to sing a song for you?" And all the people at that wedding, they said, "No way, Jose." The end.
I love your stories.
They are a lot of fun to tell.
We should finish with the song you wrote, Fergus.
Indeed. This is a song I wrote many years ago, intending to sing it as a lullaby to my children. But as fate has seen fit not to burden me with a preponderance of offspring, I will instead share it with you, good people, that you may sing it to the ones you love. This is Lullaby for the Lonely.
Good night, my lonely, I'll send you my dove to sing you to sleep. You will find love in the world of reality far above. You will find someone to love. Good night, my lonely, good night, good night. I'll always be here for you. Good night, my lonely, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. Good night, my lonely, it won't be long. Remember the wisdom from your dream song. Be patient, I say to you, wait and see. Someone to love you there will soon be. Good night, my lonely, good night, good night. I'll always be here for you. Good night, my lonely, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. Good night, my lonely, for lonely you are. Even though I never thought I'll see you each day, if just in your dreams, I'll always be here for you, cold as life seems. Good night, my lonely, good night, good night. I'll always be here for you. Good night, my lonely, good night, good night. Good night, good night, good night. Good night, good night, good night. Good night, good night. Thank you, lords and ladies, for joining us today.
If you have enjoyed our show, we do ask that you leave a little something in our virtual tip jar. You can go to paypal.me/Einini, that's EININI, and you can leave a little something for these birdies to buy some birdseed. Please also support the Medieval Fair. You can donate some at the medievalfair.org.
And check out the vendors
Don't forget to check out the
and the
vendors.
other entertainers.
Of course, and we'll be doing a couple of other shows this weekend as well. And also, if you are local, you are free to come down on Saturday and enjoy some of the food carts at Reeves Park. We hope you have enjoyed our show and all the other shows you are watching at the Medieval Fair. Thank you for watching.
Hi guys, welcome to the Medieval Fair of Norman and this little cooking show sponsored by the Arthurian Order of Avalon. Now what we like to do is teach a little bit of history about medieval times, and today we are going to be making a medieval root vegetable stew because as it's about 2 weeks till the beginning of spring when I'm shooting this, what medieval peasantry in Europe would have been doing is digging into their root cellars for whatever they could find to make a good meal. So today we're going to stick with a little bit of Europe and go with carrots, parsnips, turnips, onions, and shallots. And then just for a little bit of fun, we are going to add some protein. We have some beef. Traditionally, they'd have used whatever animal they could find, so they'd have used rabbits or squirrels. If they're very lucky, they'd have found a deer, but not get caught poaching on the king's land, because that has some very serious consequences. We're also going to use some traditional to the time spices, which is not what you would usually think of for a stew spice. We're going to have cinnamon and some ginger and just a teeny tiny bit of ground clove. They would also have used mace, which I am not going to use today because I don't have it. Also because it's very, very strong and pungent and I don't want it all over my house. And then while the AOA is a youth organization and we don't condone the use of drugs or alcohol, I am going to be using an ale today because historically they would not have had super safe water to drink, but the fermentation process for making a very weak ale would have made that water safe to drink. So we're going to be incorporating that, and then we're going to be adding some actual water to it too. So let's get started. Alright, now we've got all of our root veggies cut up, mixed up in our pot so that everything's got its own little homogenized moment. Now for the fun part. I'm using a dark stout. It is totally cool to just use beef stock, or if you wanted to do a poultry version of this, use chicken stock. And we're going to supplement that, like I said a second ago, with water. And then add your proteins. This also would be really, really good with lentils, which are a little high in protein, not super, super high. So that's another great vegetarian option. And for food safety purposes, once your knife has touched the meat, it doesn't touch vegetables again. So we've added our ale, we've added our meat, sprinkle across our cloves, and ginger, and cinnamon. And these are all to taste. I'm a big fan of cinnamon, and clove is really, really overpowering. So just a little bit of salt. Typically, they would not have used very much salt at all because it was such an expensive thing to have. And then pepper, the exact same thing. They would not have used much simply because it was so expensive to get some spices. So I'm gonna add the water to this and throw it on the heat, and we will see you guys back in 4 to 6 hours with a delicious beef stew. All right, guys, welcome back. It is about 8 hours later, and we have a delicious beef and root vegetable stew ready to go. It's kind of hot still, but you can see all of our veggies cooked all the way through. Our meat is all the way done, and it is ready to serve up. So, next time you have your medieval friends over for dinner, enjoy this fantastic recipe for winter root veggies and stew. Have a great night.
Hi. Do you want to cook a medieval meal, but you're on a Walmart budget? I can help. This is Cooking Like a Rich Medievalist When You're Poor. Oh, didn't see you there. I'm reading my Baghdad Greek cookbook, half filled with Arabic medieval meals. Today we'll be cooking arus mufalfel, pronunciation not required. The first step is to take fresh tail fat, throw away the cracklings, and then throw it into a pot. I don't have fresh tail fat, so we'll be using a block of lard I got for $1.50. This is a big pot I found in my cupboard. We have it going at medium heat, and here's a block of lard. I got some on my fingers and it doesn't come off. Yay, lard. Now, in medieval cooking, we don't have measurements, so I'm just going to take a big scoop of lard and put it in the pot. Man, does that smell disgusting. This is meat I got on sale, pork to be exact. It expires tomorrow for authenticity. We now have meat and lard in a pot, and we're going to let it sit until it's brown. But first, we're going to add coriander I found at Walmart. Don't let the organic fool you. It was a couple dollars. And salt I got from Aldi's. So while that's cooking, we're going to add salt to cover up the taste of bad meat and lard, and sprinkle in a little coriander. I bought coriander especially for this recipe. That wasn't a waste of money. Update, I just got boiling lard all over my hand. I know I was, making fun of coriander earlier, but this smells really good. Update 2, there's now lard on my clothes. Okay, now my meat is brown, and we're going to cover it just to the top of the meat with water. And then we're going to let that boil until all the water's gone. Look how yummy that looks. Yay, medieval food. Now we're taking 3 parts water, 1 part rice. We're going to put the water in the pot, and then we'll add the rice later once the water's at a boil. Okay, and then I'm going to add more lard and cinnamon and a little bit of vanilla to the boiling water. I got washed rice into the pot. And then we're going to add, since I don't have saffron, we're going to add turmeric for color. Lastly, we're going to put the meat in on top of the rice, really pretty like. And then we're going to cover it and turn it on low until it stops boiling. And there you have aruz mufalfal, a medieval dish that you can make from Walmart. Hello friends. So are you ready for a story? It's good because I've got quite a few. Another fun tale I like to tell that's been passed down comes to me from Aesop. Aesop was a great fabulist far back in the day. And he told this lovely little tale. It's a reminder that you're not always as smart as you think you are. You see, once upon a time, there was a fox. The fox was quite a cunning little animal, and it meandered on through the woods. Now, as it did so, a crow alighted on the top branch of a nearby tree. This crow was a great, beautiful bird. Sure enough, in its beak had a bit of cheese. What a lucky little crow, I see. The fox thought though for just a moment, and decided he would woo his neighbour the crow into dropping that breakfast for him. Sure enough, he called up to the crow, who was quite aware of how wily the fox could be, and called and said, "Hello, dear neighbour friend. How has your day been?" And the crow, sensing a trick, kept his beak firmly shut about the morsel. Well, the fox would not be deterred, though. called up again. "Oh, how beautiful you look today indeed, Crow. Such shiny, glossy black feathers, and such a magnificent beak. You look as if perhaps you could be the greatest of all the birds in the forest today." Now this, the Crow, was a bit susceptible to flattery. Forgets themselves a bit. Forgets about the breakfast in their beak, and calls down a thank you to the fox, quite flattered. Unfortunately, as you open your mouth, you kind of lose things in your mouth. And so the cheese went tumbling down the tree, down to the forest ground, where the fox, of course, gobbled it up, called up to the Crow and said, "Aye, but we are beautiful, but watch for the vanity, for you see, as long as you don't keep your wits about you, you're not the smartest animal in this forest." Aye, from that day forward, the Crow always watched out and thought before it gave into action. So many of you might get my affinity to come up with new stories, not just any of the ones that I've perhaps read before. When you've been far and wide, and you've travelled, and you've met people, you come across all sorts of stories. You see, there's a special trick I like to use. It's called creating stories out of nothing. You see, even though I can quite a few stories, sometimes there's something magical about throwing something together from nothing. So such a great tale was requested of me by a young lad many years back. He wanted something very special for his younger brother. Now, his younger brother liked, of all things, he liked the sea. He liked mermaids and sirens and the like. And he also quite liked barn animals like sheep and cows and chickens. They were his favourite. So now this older brother has asked me to tell a special story for this lad. And I've came up with this. It's a fun little one, and travel with me for a moment. You see, once upon a time, in a land that most humans will never see, unfortunately, far, far beneath the waves, there was a great merman. His name was Alexander. Now, this merman had a special home for animals. Special animals that he encountered throughout the sea. You've got your great sea coos with their big flappy fins. And then you've got seahorses. Nay. He also had a great kraken. Bubbles. This was a nice little kraken. He was a bit of a softie now. You'll have to take my word for it, because not every kraken is going to be a softie. No, indeed. He seemed to have everything he could want. Except for one thing. He didn't have any sea chickens. Well, it seemed quite an oversight. Sea chickens are especially important. They lay very special sea chicken eggs. Those sea chicken eggs, well, let's be honest, they're quite delicious. So Alexander decided one day that he was going to quest and find himself some sea chickens. This was not as simple as going to another farm or something like that. You see, sea chickens are actually a very dangerous thing. When they cluck a certain way, they shoot out little bolts almost like lightning. And underwater, that's especially scary. So he thought about this. Even though they were his favourite, and even though he wanted sea eggs, he knew he was going to need something extra special for this. So he sought out his wizard friend. Now, his wizard friend, Jacob, decided to give him a few special implements to help him on his way. A special trap to capture the sea chickens. A special bubble so that the merman could breathe. You see, the chickens were most commonly found in the cave of air, and not every mermaid or siren has the ability to breathe above the water, so it was a special kind of implement so he could. Then the third thing he gave him was, well, wishes. He was going to need a bit of luck and a bit of bravery, and those were entirely on Alexander. So sure enough, Alexander treks his way far and wide until he makes it to the great and mysterious cave of air. And as he starts to surface, sure enough, he starts to hear, bzz, bzz. He was, this was a bit scary indeed, so he steeled himself. He put on the special bubble so he could breathe. And he swam up just to the edge of the pool and rose out of the water, and sure enough, pandemonium. But he stopped, and he sat down his trap, and he backed away. Here's where he got a bit innovative. See, and he couldn't just grab a chicken and run away. The chicken would never be happy. Sea chickens have to come willingly. So as he backed away into his bubble, Alexander called out, "Hello, sea chickens! Please, if you will, I would love to give you a new home." It must have been something about the sincerity of his voice, or the way he stood back in earnest and didn't try to chase after the sea chickens. A little pair of them trotted up, one male and one female, and plopped themselves into the little trap of all things. Sea chickens. There's something else for sure. Alexander asked again, Are you quite sure? Is it all right if I close the trap now? To which the female chicken let out a little and he knew that he was going to be safe, at least for now. So sure enough, he closes up the trap and travels all the way back to his home. And when he gets there, he lets the chickens out. Now, these sea chickens are able to breathe both the air and the water, but they're usually very, very comfortable if you get them a good bit of algae to nest into. And you keep kelp growing on the side. Now, sure enough, this is exactly the sort of thing that a kraken loves. So the two new sea chickens came out of their cage and snuggled right up next to Bubbles. And that's how Alexander ended up with sea chickens who were best friends with a kraken. It's a bit of a fun one, and it's always fun to make chicken noises, let's be honest. It's a bit absurd, but it's a lot of fun, and there's nothing like the smile on a wee lad's face, or a wee lassie too. There's something fun to tell a story that's not really got much of a point. But sure enough, there are plenty of those that do have very poignant points, and there is plenty of those that have, well, less than good endings. But if nothing else, I'm gonna have one or two that like to make us smile.
So, you wish to be made a knight. In that case, I have questions to ask of you. Do you promise to be brave, honorable, and truthful in all that you do? And you promise to use all your strengths to help those who are in need? You also promise to be safe and secure and keep everybody around you safe in this very trying time. Excellent. Then, if you'll kneel for me, hold very still. Then, in the name of God, Saint Michael, and Saint George, I do W.A. Knight of the Realm, and you may now stand to be recognized as such. Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah! And enjoy the rest of your time here at Faire.
Sir Lonval. Remember him? One of the lesser knights at the court of King Arthur. Lesser in the sense, less famous, less heroic, less popular with the king, with much less money in his pocket. That Lonval. Well, he was having a very interesting day. As you might remember from last episode, he had taken a ride in the woods just to get away from all the hustle and bustle of the court for a while. And he had taken a nice nap under a tree. When he woke up, there were these two lovely young maidens sitting right next to him. And now they were beckoning him, asking him to follow them into the woods to meet their lady, who apparently really wanted to meet Lonval. Now this was exciting for Sir Lonval, because back at the court, none of the ladies would ever even look at him twice. So he gladly followed the two mysterious maidens into the deep forest.
Do you wish to be made a princess? Please kneel. Do you promise to be kind? Do you promise to be loyal? And do you promise to be safe during these trying times? Very well. In the name of God, Saint Michael, and Saint Mary, I now dub you a princess of the realm, and you should rise to be recognized as such. Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah! Hip hip! Huzzah!
For this mystery play, I will need 8 volunteers.
Now, it's well known that many a great mind has come to great thoughts and writings while, shall we say, indisposed. Martin Luther himself was known for often writing, as he put it, in the sewer. William Shakespeare evidently had problems of his own. Recently excavated over here at the excavation spot, commonly known as Privy Number 3, was found a previously unknown work of the bard. Love's Labour's Won by Mr. William Billy Bob Shakespeare. I, as the narrator, shall narrate the play, as these your thespians shall act with vigor. I will encourage, then, you, the audience, to boo the villain and yay the hero and all that jazz. That being said, we have dramatis personae. Yes, here we have Cody as our villain. Paris. You shall be Paris. You, sir, shall be our hero.
I got this in the bag.
Fair Helen. Helen's grandmother. Helen's grandmother's dog. Helen's grandmother's cat. And the chair and the table. Now, please clear the stage except for Fair Helen. As our story opens, we find ourselves in a densely wooded forest. Imagine. Where lovely Helen is picking wild blackberries while whistling a merry tune. Yes, whistling a merry tune. Unbeknownst to her, our villain, Paris, is creeping up behind her. He grabs her and tries to steal a kiss. She screams loud and long. Longer and louder, please. The villain covers her mouth with his hands as she screams. She slaps the villain in the face. He picks her up over his shoulder and carries her. She screams and beats him. He marches around in a circle 3 times. Then heads home.
On our gallant ship.
He heads for home to steal her grandmother's money, and they exit. Meanwhile, back in Sparta, Helen's grandmother is sitting on a chair.
Are you the chair?
Yes.
Okay.
Stirring some cake batter.
On the table, probably.
At the table. The cat is sleeping underneath the table. The old dog Shep enters the house and barks at the cat. The cat then jumps on grandmother's lap.
I recognize this scene.
Then grandmother slaps the cat down and says, "Get down, you dirty creature."
Dirty creature!
The cat jumps down and runs outside.
We're outside now!
The dog comes over and licks grandmother's hand. All the way up to the elbow. Grandmother kicks the dog, and the dog goes and lies in a corner. Just then, our villain enters the room with Helen on his shoulder.
What do you know?
Grandmother screams. The villain says, "I'm taking Helen and your money."
And your little dog, too.
The dog rushes over and bites the villain on the leg. The villain kicks the dog and lets Helen down. Helen faints then onto the floor.
Women do that around me.
The dog barks at the villain and then goes over and starts licking Helen's face. It does not revive her. The dog continues licking Helen's face. Just then, Menelaus enters and shouts, "Forsooth and anon!"
Why were you in the kitchen?
Because, forsooth and anon!
Helen stands up and screams, "Oh, my darling Menelaus!"
Oh, my darling Menelaus!
Menelaus and Helen embrace.
Oh, not till you're married.
Menelaus says, "I love you, my precious."
From over there.
I love you, my precious.
Helen says, "I love you, my little lotus blossom."
I love you, my little blossom.
All of a sudden, the villain picks up the chair and throws it at Menelaus. It knocks Menelaus to the floor.
Yeah.
Helen faints and falls onto the table.
Yeah.
Grandmother tries to revive her by slapping her hand and sobbing, "My child, my child." This goes on and on and on. The cat re-enters the house and jumps on the chair, runs underneath the table. Menelaus stands up. He begins flexing his muscles. The villain begins to tremble and shake. His knees knock together.
No!
This goes on and on and on.
No!
Menelaus decides to warm up for the fight, so he does a few exercises, starting by doing 10 jumping jacks.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
He then runs in place for 15 seconds.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 23, 4, 18, 9,
All the while, grandmother is sobbing and slapping, the villain is trembling, the dog is barking, and the cat is mewing. Then, Menelaus does 15 push-ups.
Those weren't jumping jacks either, right?
I won't even have to fight.
On the 15th push-up, our villain seizes the opportunity and hits Menelaus in the head. He falls to the floor unconscious. Just then, the cat scratches the dog's nose. The dog and the cat have a fight right on top of Menelaus.
Go! Fight!
The dog then chases the cat outside. Just then, the table collapses under Helen's weight and falls to the ground, along with her grandmother. Helen remains unconscious. Grandmother shouts, "You nasty villain!"
You nasty villain!
She gets up.
Oh, that's going to be a minute.
She starts hitting him in the stomach.
Would be easier if you came over
It's
here.
right there, dear.
All right.
The villain doubles over. She then goes around and kicks him in the seat.
You could've just turned around, old man.
We don't have so much time here.
The villain straightens up.
Whoa!
He hits him more in the stomach.
Look, just stay there.
And then in the seat. She finally gives him a rabbit punch on the back of the neck. He collapses unconscious on the floor. Granny looks around at the 3 unconscious bodies on the floor. She straightens her shawl around her head, heads for the door for a night on the town, saying, "All's well that ends well." And thus ends Love's Labor's 1.
The old William had pudding.
I see it all.
I thought I would do a little bit of Shakespeare this evening. Here is "'Twas a Lover and His Lass" from As You Like It. It was a lover and his lass, with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no, that over the great cornfields did pass in the springtime, the only pretty ring-time, when birds do sing hey ding-a-ding-ding, sweet lovers love the spring. Between the acres of the rye, with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no, these pretty country folk would lie in the springtime, the only pretty ring time, when birds do sing hey ding-a-ding-ding, sweet lovers love the spring. The carol they began that hour, with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no, how that love was but a flower in the springtime, the only pretty ringtime. When birds do sing, hey, ding-a-ding-ding. Sweet lovers love the spring. Sweet lovers love the spring. Therefore take the present time with a hey and a ho and a hey nonny no. For love is crowned with a prime in the springtime, the only pretty ringtime. When birds do sing, hey ding-a-ding-ding, hey ding-a-ding-a-ding, hey ding-a-ding-a-ding. Sweet lovers love the spring, sweet lovers love the spring. From there, I think we're going to go to O Mistress Mine from Twelfth Night. And from that, because it shares a common meter, we're going to go into Orpheus with his lute from Henry VIII. O Mistress Mine, where are you roaming? Oh, staying here, your true love's coming, that can sing both high and low. Trip no further, pretty sweeting, journeys end in lovers' meeting. Every wise man's son doth know. What is love is not hereafter. Present mirth hath present laughter. What's to come is still unsure. In delay there lies no plenty. Then come kiss me, sweet and 20. Youth's a stuff will not endure. O Orpheus with his lute made trees, and the mountain tops that freeze bowed themselves when he did sing. To his music plants and flowers ever sprung, while sun and showers there did make a lasting spring. Everything that heard him play, even the billows of the sea, hung their heads and then lay by. In sweet music is such art, killing care with grief of heart. Fall asleep or hearing die. All right, and I do have a playlist this evening, and I'm going to go from that into When Daisies Pied and When Icicles Hang by the Wall, both from Love's Labour's Lost. And they share a common meter as well, so we're going to put them both in the same song. When daisies pied and violets blue and cuckoo buds of yellow hue and lady smocks all silver white, you paint the meadows with delight. The cuckoo then on every tree mocks married men, for thus sings he, cuckoo, cuckoo, a word of fear unpleasing to the married ear. Shepherds pipe on hawks and merry larks are plowmen's flocks, and turtles dread and rooks and daws, and maidens bleach their summer smocks. Then on every tree mocks merry men for thus sings he. A word of fear unpleasing to the merry ear. Hang by the wall, and Dicky Shepherd blows his nail, and Tom bears logs into the hall, and milk comes frozen home in pail. When blood is nipped and ways be foul, then nightly sings the staring owl to do it to do a merry note while greasy Joe doth deal well pop. Loud the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns the parson's song, and birds sit brooding in the snow, and Marion's nose is red and raw. When roasted crabs hiss in the bowl, then nightly sings the staring owl to it to will a merry note while greasy Joe doth heal the pot. Is Hey-Ho the Holly, or otherwise known as Blow Blow Thou Winter Wind. It's as you like it. Blow, blow thou winter wind, thou art not so unkind as man's ingratitude. Thy tooth is not so keen, because thou art not seen, although thy breath be rude. Hey, ho, sing hey, ho, unto the green holly. Most friendship is feigning, most loving near folly. So hey, ho, the holly, this life is most jolly. Freeze, thou bitter skies, thou dost not fight so nigh as benefits forgot. Though thou the waters warm, thy sting is not so sharp as a friend remembered not. Hey, ho, sing hey, ho, unto the green holly. Most friendship is feigning, most loving near folly. So hey, ho, the holly, this life is most jolly. Hey, ho, the holly, this life is most jolly. From there, we're going to take it a little bit out of the realm of Shakespeare's original words, and the words repeated by the broadside balladeer Ben Jonson. Here we go. That's about right. You may recognize this fellow from Midsummer Night's Dream. From Oberon in fairyland, king of ghosts and shadows there, mad Robin I, at his command, am sent to view the night sports here. What revel rout is here about? In any corner where I go, I will it see, and merry be, and make good sport with as swift as lightning I can fly, amidst the airy will consume, and in a minute's space descry what things are done below the moon. There's neither hag nor spirit shall wag in any corner where I go, but Robin I their feats will smile, and make good sport with Sometimes you find me like a man, Sometimes a hawk, sometimes a hound. When to a horse I turns me can, 2 trips and trot about you round. But if you stride my back to ride, as swift as sair away I go, o'er hedge and lands, o'er pools and ponds, I run out laughing, ho, ho, ho. When lads and lasses merry be, with posets and with junkets fine, unknown to all their company, I eat their cakes, I drink their wine, and to make sport I fart and snort, and all the candles out I blow. The maids I kiss, they shriek, "Who's this?" I answer laughing, ho, ho, ho. If that my fellow elf and I in circle dance do trip it round, and we chance by any eyes there present to be seen or found, and if that they do speak or say, but months continue as they go, then might by night I them affright, pinches dreams and ho, ho, ho. Since hag-bred Merlin's time have I continued night sports to and fro, that for my pranks men call me by the name of Robin Goodfellow. Fiends, ghosts, and sprites that haunt the nights, the hags and goblins do me know, and bedlams old my tales have told, sing vale, vale, ho, 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 vale, vale, ho. From The Tempest. Where the bee sucks, there suck I, under cowslips, there I lie, there I couch when owls do cry, when owls do cry, they cry on the bat's back. I do fly, oh I do fly, and where the bee sucks, there suck I, under cowslips, there I lie, there I couch when owls do cry, when owls do cry. After summer, merrily, merrily after summer, merrily, merrily shall I live now, under the blossom that hangs from the bough. Oh, merrily, merrily shall I live now, under the blossom that hangs from the bough. Also from The Tempest. Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones are coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes, nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer us he change into something rich and strange. Seen him sourly ring his knell, hark, now I hear them ding dong bell. Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones are coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes, nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer us he change into something rich and strange. Seen him sourly ring his knell, hark, now I hear them ding dong bell, ding dong bell.
Well, from here I think we're going to take a little venture into a little bit more modern interpretation of Shakespeare. Not necessarily always his words, but perhaps his plots and ideas. Start with his words. Two households both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge, break to new mutiny. Civil blood makes civil hands unclean. That party crasher Romeo did spy fair Juliet, and star-crossed lovers they became. He Montague, she a Capulet. And so they planned betwixt them both that the next day they would be wed. But Tybalt, he ruined the whole affair. Now Mercutio and he are dead, and Romeo is banished. The old friar hatches a plan. Juliet will feign death to run away with Romeo on the land. But Romeo returns to find his true love laid in state, and so he drinks from a poison vial and dies before Juliet wakes. And when our heroine doth stir, she spies her husband dead. Taking his dagger, she stabs herself, losing life as she bled. How glooming peace this morning brings, for never was a story of more woe. Just remember this star-crossed lover's tale of Juliet and her Romeo. And for my next song, sorry about that. It's very unprofessional, I'm sure, but I was expecting it. Oh, you might want to get in on this too.
Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the flesh all gone. Ooh, 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 ooh. Wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on? The English Isles were his domain. He would not abdicate his reign. War swept across the northern plain. Papal homage did he demand, that he obey holy command. Excommunication was his reprimand. Distant cloister did he partake, where monk there sought his life to take. Of a poisonous draught his thirst to slake. Have you seen the ghost of John? Long white bones with the flesh all gone.
And white bones of flesh all gone. Long white bones with the flesh all gone.
Wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on? Wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on. When that I was and a little tiny boy, with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, a foolish thing was but a toy, for the rain it raineth every day. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, for the rain it raineth every day. When then I came to man's estate, with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, against knaves and thieves, then shut their gates, for the rain it raineth every day. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, for the rain it raineth every day. Then when I came, alas, to wife, with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, by swaggering I could ne'er thrive, for the rain it raineth every day. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, for the rain it raineth every day. Then when I came unto my beds, with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, with toss-pots all had drunken heads, for the rain it raineth every day. With a hey-ho, the wind and the rain, for the rain it raineth every day. Long time ago the world begun, with a hey-ho, the wind and the rain. But that's all one, this show is done, and I'll strive to please you every day. Well met, good even.
Here I am putting the pulp onto the screen to make it easier to get out of the water, and I'll eventually flip it over onto the table. Then I would use the sea sponge to soak up the water to dry out the paper. Paper was actually developed in 2nd century China. The original materials were bamboo and cotton, which is what I'm using now. It eventually spread to the Islamic world in the 8th century, and by 11th century it was in Europe. It is different than papyrus, which is made out of the papyrus plant, and parchment, which is made out of skin. By the 19th century is when we start developing our wood-based paper, which is what we now know today. The reason medieval documents lasted as long as they have is because it is made out of the cotton and the bamboo, which doesn't disintegrate in water like the wood pulp does. Here you can see the paper is finished and it's going to dry out. Once it dries out, it turns into the paper feel that you usually see. Here's the one I previously finished.
Found in Turfan in eastern China, a major stop along the Silk Road, this doll is a replica of one that was buried in a grave along with others like her. The original is 29.5 centimeters or 11.6 inches tall, which is about the same size as a Barbie doll. Her clothes were specially woven entirely from silk, with Persian patterns on the bodice, a striped skirt with a gauze overlay, and tablet-woven belt, demonstrating a connection with other cultures. Her arms are made of rolled-up paper pawn tickets. Recycling the paper for a toy shows how expensive paper was at the time. The costuming and other items found in the grave date this artifact to the early Tang dynasty, which ran from the 7th to the 10th centuries. The replica is made with hand-painted silk and entirely hand-stitched.
Westeth Hela. That's an Anglo-Saxon greeting for hello to you all. Now, I'm sure you're wondering who I am, but that's not what is fascinating. What's fascinating is what I am. I am a bard, a traveling storyteller. I go from town to town, swapping stories old with faces new. Now, there's a favorite story of mine, The Sword and the Stone. Don't stop me if you've heard this one before. I like this one. It brings me comfort on my long journeys. Now, this takes place after the fall of the Roman Empire in the West. So, Rome had left, and Britain was embroiled in turmoil. Kings and jumped-up lords who wanted to become kings fought only to increase their own individual holdings. Now, one man wanted to unite Britain for the betterment of all, and that man was Uther Pendragon. With the help of the wizard Merlin, Sir Uther united all of Britain and ruled with courtesy, chivalry, and honor. Now, during the war, Uther had a secret child, and by secret I mean Merlin was doing the whole crazy, aloof, I'm a wizard, I can see the future, indoor plumbing, it's gonna be big, wizard thing, and kept the child's identity from him. The child, named Arthur, was secreted away and left with the good knight Sir Ector, who raised Arthur along with his own son, Kay, and taught the two about knighthood. Now, as the poets say, every good beginning comes from some other beginning's end, and Arthur's story begins at the end of Uther's story. Britain was without a unifying monarch, and fearing the land would fall into endless war again, Merlin had a plan. He took a sword, enchanted it, and placed it within a stone.
Good stone. Take this sword and...
I am a rock.
No, you are a stone.
I am a rock.
No, there are anthropological and geological differences between stone and...
I am a rock.
Very well. As you will. Moving on. Take this sword, Caliburn.
Excalibur.
No, Excalibur is the sword from the Lady of the Lake. This is Caliburn.
Excalibur.
This is the problem with anthropomorphizing inanimate objects. Good enchanted piece of earth, take this sword and promise to only give it to the person who is destined to be king of all of Britain. Do you understand?
I am a rock.
After placing the sword in the rock, Merlin sent word to all of the rulers of Britain that only the true heir of Uther Pendragon would be able to draw the sword from the stone. And, should the heir not reveal himself in time, there would be a grand tournament on New Year's Day to determine the king of all Britain. Hearing this, the rulers readied their best men to attempt to pry the sword from the stone.
You will be mine.
Absolutely not.
Come on.
No, no.
No.
Very well then. Stay. I don't want to be queen anyway.
Alas, no one succeeded, of course. And so, their pride damaged by this early defeat, the various lords and kings went home to prepare themselves for the tournament on New Year's Day, because they thought the heir would not reveal himself in time. And they were right. New Year's Day arrived, and the sword still remained in the stone. Now, a tournament in medieval Europe is a lot like a medieval fair today. There is entertainment with dancers, music, jugglers, bards, and storytellers like myself. Oh, and food, mutton, roast pheasant, and festive drinks. And if that isn't enough for you, there are physical activities, martial exploits, sword fighting, jousting, archery. Well, I remember this one time I was with Brasius and the boys, and Sorry, I forgot which story I was telling. So, New Year's Day arrives, and all of the kings and lords have brought their best warriors to determine who would be king of all Britain. Among the knights competing in the tournament was Arthur's foster brother, Sir Kay. Now, Sir Kay was supremely talented at the sword and little else. Headstrong and a tad forgetful, Sir Kay was coming up to his fight and realized something. He had forgotten his sword. Of all the things, there are many things that make a knight. Your armor, your horse, and your weapon, the symbol of your office. That is not something a good knight should forget. And so Sir Kay, panicked, told Arthur to go and find him a sword immediately. And Arthur rushed from camp to camp, but no one had a sword to spare.
Absolutely not.
Thinking all hope was lost, Arthur realized where there was an unattended sword. And so Arthur found himself before the sword in the stone.
Hello, good stone.
I am a rock.
I'm sorry, good rock. I was told you were a stone, but if you call yourself a rock, then I will also call you a rock.
I am a rock.
I was wondering if I may have that sword you are holding.
Excalibur!
That is an incredible name. Did you come up with it?
No.
Ah, well, would you give it to me? I only need it for a short time. It is for my brother's fight. Afterwards, I can give it back to you to guard.
Keep it!
Really? Thank you, good rock. But why should I keep it? Do you not need it back?
Because, do you have any idea what happens when you shove a metal spike into someone's head? Ow. But second, because you showed me courtesy. You asked me nicely for the sword. Everyone else just tried to take it by force. I believe you are demanding to have that sword, that you can teach others to be nice.
I shall do my best. Thank you once again, good rock.
With sword in hand, Arthur rushes back to Sir Kay and gives him the sword just in time for his fight.
I would yield.
And Sir Kay fights with style, aplomb, and panache. Never before had he wielded such a perfect sword, and never before had the crowd seen such a magnificent weapon. Well, rumor soon spreads of Sir Kay's magnificent sword, and these rumors pass around all the way to the ears of the wizard Merlin.
Sir Kay, how did you acquire that sword?
Oh, my brother Arthur went and found it for me.
Young squire, how did you acquire the sword?
I asked the rock for it, and it gave the sword to me. It said I was the first person to ask nicely for it.
Arthur, do you understand what removing the sword means?
No, Your Grace. Why is it so special to remove the sword?
It means that you are the heir to Uther Pendragon, and the true king of all Britain.
But I do not want to be king. I am happy living with my family, and I want to become a knight like my brother.
The stone, rock, chose you because it thought you could better serve these lands by being king and by sharing with us your style of kindness. Arthur, will you become king?
It would be my honor to serve as king of all Britain, provided you help me, Merlin.
Gladly. To all, far and near, let it be known that the heir of Uther Pendragon has been found. The boy Arthur has removed the sword and is destined to be our king. Let us hear your songs as Britain enters a new age.
And all of Britain sang for joy at the crowning of their new king. Well, most of Britain. At least 2/5 of Britain. There were some old-timers who didn't think a boy could be a good king, even though it's a hereditary monarchy and they don't get a choice. But that is a story for another time. Thank you all for listening to my tale. I hope you will remember to be kind to each other. Through kindness, we can make the world a better place. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the 2021 Norman Medieval Fair, and we hope you enjoyed our performance of The Sword in the Stone. We are the Arthurian Order of Avalon, or AOA for short, and you can normally find us at the Norman Fair performing the human chess game and our song and dance show. This year, however, we are supporting the efforts of the fair to go virtual, and all of our scenes were filmed with our housemates while in quarantine, because nobody likes to spread the plague. If you enjoyed our show, you should check out our other activities. We do year-round social events and educational opportunities where you can safely learn to swing a sword at your friends, sew your own costume, or learn a medieval song and dance. If you're interested in learning more about who we are and what we do, please check out our Facebook page. Just search for Arthurian Order of Avalon and you'll find us there. We look forward to seeing you in person next year at the Norman Medieval Fair. Huzzah!
Over the Stone is the name of the song that we performed in our musical interlude in our production of Sword in the Stone. This song was originally written in Welsh as Tros y Gerrig. It is attributed to Rhys Bodichin, who, according to William Cole in his publication Folk Songs of England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, led a contingent of Welsh forces at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. The Battle of Bosworth is said to have been the last battle of the War of the Roses between the House of Lancaster, represented by the Red Rose, and the House of York, represented by the White Rose. The popular book series and TV show Game of Thrones uses some of the events in these wars to base their storylines on. The Battle of Bosworth marks the end of the Plantagenet dynasty and the beginning of the Tudor dynasty. which would be represented by the red rose overlain by the white rose, which is called the Tudor rose. This signified the unity between the houses of York and Lancaster. Over the Stone was translated by John Oxenford, who translated many other literary works from Welsh and German to English.